Hi everyone, I am Mathew Alphons Sebastian and I am here to present the key points on the essay, What Secularism is and Where It Needs to be Headed by Romila Thapar. In this presentation, we will be first discussing about the background of this essay and about the author. After that, we will be discussing the main titles of the essay and the key points coming under each title. And at last, we will be having a conclusion on this whole essay. So first, let's move into the background of this essay. The background of this essay is that what secularism is and where it needs to be headed. It is an extract from the Australian Engineer Memorial Lecture that Romila Thapar delivered. This lecture on the topic of Indian society and the secular was delivered by Romila Thapar also at Jamia Millia Islamia University at Delhi in August 2015. Moving to the section about the author, Romila Thapar is one of India's most distinguished historians whose work beginning in the 1960s has sought to change our understanding of India's past. She was born in India in 1931 in a well-known Punjab family and spent her childhood in various parts of the country. Her principal area of study is ancient India, a field in which she is preeminent. During her career, Thapar has produced over 15 volumes, including The Penguin History of Early India from the Origin to AD 1300, Ashoka and Decline of the Mayuras, and Ancient Indian Social History, some interpretations. Thapar is a professor of ancient history emerita at Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. She has been General President of the Indian History Congress. Moving to the essay, first we must understand the theme of the essay, that is secularism. Secular just simply means not connected to religious or spiritual matters. Secularism means the idea of something being not religious or not connected to any religious organizations. According to the Indian Constitution, a secular state means a state that does not give any priority to any of the religious organizations, instead which gives equal importance to all the religious organizations. Moving to the essay, what secularism is and where it needs to be headed. In the essay, Romila gives an introduction to secularism, the history of it in India, the colonial impact or the aspect of people towards it, and the present scenario and its future, that is where it is headed. The main titles of the essay are as follows: What secularism is and is not, Indian secularism, colonial view of religion, the place of religion in Indian history, the importance of sects, the arrival of Islam with making about medieval history and the task of secularization. The beginning of the essay, what Romila Thapar specifies is that secularism goes beyond politics. It's not something just connected to politics and not a political slogan. It is deeply tied to the question, what kind of society we want. If secularism is removed from our constitution, then our democracy becomes a victim having an unthinkable future. The relationship of other identities such as religion, caste, language, and region will inevitably become secondary in a secular state. In the view of Romila, the secular means something which relates to the world and which is distinct from the religious. Secularism involves questioning the control that religious institutions have over social institutions. The morality fundamental to secularism goes beyond any single religion and extends to the functioning of the entire society. Secularism demarcates the social institutions over which religion can or cannot exercise control. According to Romila Thapar, this distinction is fundamental. Secularism is a process by which society changes or understands this distinction. Now let's see what secularism is not. It is first title of the essay, and now, as we have already discussed what secularism is, we'll be discussing about what secularism is not. According to Romila Thapar, secularism is not the denial of religion. Instead, it's a curtailment of the control that religious organizations have over social functioning. When the term secular was first used in 1851, secular had only one basic meaning, which meant the laws relating to moral and social values as having been created by humans for their well-being. Later, in this title, she speaks about religion and religious institutions. Religion, according to her, is a personal emotional need. This was then extended to explanations of how one experienced life and about the powers which was unknown to him. Personalized religion became a complex organized religion and it took forms of institutions which controlled the society. In some cases, it paralleled the governing authority, which is the state. Indian secularism, which is the second title of the essay, according to Romila Thapar, there are many religious beliefs that is existing in our country. Secularism in India means giving equal treatment to all the religions. Romila Thapar is saying that coexistence of religions in India is insufficient because the minorities are still having several limitations to their right of freedom of religion and belief. Nowadays, Hindu extremism, as you can see, is in rise with several cases of harassment, intimidation, and violence, which is against other religious groups and Dalits. This shows that in India, secular is less evident and is almost virtually absent. Under the title Colonial View of Religion, Romila Thapar says that the colonial view of religion is that of trying to establish a control over the social organizations. One justifications given by the colonial rulers were that a force was needed from outside to control the mutual hostility between the Hindu and Muslim. The concept of majority and minority were also brought by the colonial rulers. The colonial view of religion led to religious nationalism, according to Romila Thapar, and the Hindu and Muslims, they went into the making of communal landscape in India. This communal landscape, which were made during the colonial period, is also visible in the present era. Religious nationalisms, including a range of Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, and other religious organizations, politically ambitious and anxious to continue their control over community laws to ensure a political constituency, are still visible in today's India. Next title in the essay is The Place of Religion in Indian History. The diversity of religious belief and practice in India, according to Romila Thapar, is unique. According to her, religion in India holds an important aspect of society. In India, religion is more publicly visible than in most English-speaking Western countries. As we can see, a lot of Hindu temples, Muslim mosques, and Christian churches all next to each other. In the Indian past, status was measured through an interdependence of the sect and caste. Caste determined by the social code maintained formally by those who claimed to be educated and knew the law. Although India is constitutionally a secular state, the role of religion in India is one of the dominating influences in the social life of its people. The importance of sects. The sect is a subgroup of religious, political, or philosophical belief system, usually an offshoot of a larger group. The creation of sect was an open and led to plurality in case of many religions in India. The authority of caste and sect over the social code has now to be replaced by civil law applicable to all. This will require looking afresh at the civil law claimed by all religions to ensure its equality and its endorsement of social justice. Now let's move to the next title, The Arrival of Islam. Islam is the second largest religion in India, and Islam arrived in India in the 7th century. The people in ancient India had a right to religion, and every individual was given citizenship regardless of whether someone's religion. But the political doctrines of Islam were against the religious views of other religions in India. New temples and monasteries were not allowed. Secularism in India is being seen by some as a favor to the Muslims and not an imperative for democracy. The next title is Myth-making about medieval history. Medieval history, which colonial historians call Muslim period, is located in the last 1,000 years. Religious extremists and politicians are having the same interpretation as that of British. That is, a period that being the Islamic rule tyrannized and oppressed Hindu population. Viewed historically, the scene differs at many levels. What was a largely political act at that time is often interpreted today as an entirely religious act with politics left out. Some confrontation must be expected, which were not new to the Indian scene as in earlier times as that of the Brahmanas and the Stramans. It was in fact a normal custom similar to many others in the world at that time. The medieval period has got significance in the Indian history as it has got striking creativity which enriched the face of Indian culture. During that period, new and prior philosophical theories were discussed. There were explorations into the theories of mathematics, astronomy, classical Hindustani, Carnatic music, etc. We are today unable to look beyond that what we have been told by those who colonized us and those who loyally continue to carry on with that legacy. Let's move to the final title of the essay, that is the task of secularization. Secularizing of society, according to Romila Thapar, is not an overnight revolution. It won't be that easy as it is a historical process. Secularization, therefore, will be have to be thought with sensitivity, care, and thoroughness. A serious beginning has to be made to introduce secular values through establishing confidence in a secular society and by explaining its necessary link to democracy. As a beginning, there could be two possible ways. One would be to ensure the secular in education and the other the secular in civil laws. Education means the availability of all branches of knowledge to all citizens without discrimination. Young people to know what is meant by a shared history is possible by this method. The next is secularism to be in our civil laws. Our civil laws were drawn up in colonial times, although we have made some changes after independence. In a turn to the secular, we shall have to make necessary corrections to the existing civil laws to ensure that they conform to equal rights for all citizens with no exceptions. We must consider how we can make the reality of citizenship which guarantee our social welfare, our well-being, our understanding of our world, and our wish to bring quality into our lives. Coming to the conclusion part, after reading the key points of this essay, we can say that secularism is one of the pillars of democracy because it implies expanding the principles of individualism and liberalism. The main motive behind introducing secularism in India was to ensure that all communities could exist in harmony and peace. The fair execution of secularism is not an easy job, and the leaders of independent India have struggled hard to achieve it. After some decades of independence, still political parties remain to use the agenda of religious diversity and caste. Sometimes because of personal benefits, some politicians are refusing the motive of creating a secular state. Sadly enough, there are riots being held now and then to take down the concept of secularism, to display the powers of community and to eradicate the other communities. Today, the biggest challenge to the Indian nation is coming from forces claiming to represent the mainstream majority. In the end, we can say that secularism is a beautiful concept. India being a traditional society that contains not one, but many traditions owing their origin in part to the different religions that exist here, has so far managed to retain the secular character of its polity. If we want a secular society, then we would have to stop identifying ourselves both in theory and practice as primarily by religion, caste, or language and start thinking of ourselves as Indian citizens. The ideology has to be recognized and implemented with equal effort and grace as printed in books. People should study secularism and preach others, understand the pros and cons, and strive to have a better life and a better future. I conclude my presentation here. Thank you.